Okay, let's dive right into this topic. When you think of Bangkok today, you probably immediately have pictures in your head, right? Glowing neon signs, endless street food stalls on every corner, and these huge, ultra-modern luxury hotels. But you know what? This Bangkok, as we know it, didn't always exist. In the 1960s, the city went through an almost unprecedented economic and cultural transformation. It happened basically overnight. In our analysis today, we're taking a close look at how foreign capital met Thai entrepreneurial spirit and created a completely new urban landscape from the ground up. It's really like a giant puzzle that suddenly came together. So, our roadmap for today looks like this. We'll start with the catalyst for this whole change. Then we'll look at the stark contrasts between luxury hotels and basic accommodations. We'll head over to Patpong and look at the social dynamics. After that, we'll take a look at two completely different culinary worlds before wrapping up with the city's lasting legacy. Sound good? Let's go. Number 1 on our list, the catalyst of the transformation. You know, every massive urban change needs a real spark, the trigger. And in this case, it was the Vietnam War, which turned Thailand into a strategic base. For Bangkok, fortunately, this didn't mean combat operations, but something completely different. An absolute flood of people. 50,000. You really have to let that sink in. 50,000 American soldiers, mostly airmen, who flooded into the city in the mid-60s for so-called rest and recreation, or home leave. Imagine that. Tens of thousands of young men looking to escape the war for a few days, with an enormous hunger for entertainment and, this is the crucial point, with a lot of money in their pockets. That literally changed the city's demand overnight. And with these men came this massive economic power. We're talking about massive sums here. 1.1 billion US dollars in American military and economic aid, plus another 590 million through USAID. Together, that's $1.69 billion. That wasn't just money to spend. It was pure transformational capital. And this capital was the fuel that really kick-started the engine of Bangkok's reinvention. That brings us to Section 2, Luxury Hotels and R&R Accommodations. Now, you might be asking yourself, where do you suddenly put so many people with so much money? Well, the answer reveals a truly fascinating divide in the city. On the one hand, we have the Mandarin Oriental. It had been sitting there on the Chao Phraya River since 1876. Under the influence of Jim Thompson, it became the absolute sanctuary for officers, generals, and diplomats in the 60s. Totally refined, timeless, completely untouched by the chaos outside. On the other hand, and this is what's really exciting, we see the lightning-fast response to the needs of the regular soldiers. Hotels that sprouted up like mushrooms from the ground in the 60s, full of jukeboxes, glaring neon lights, and with rooms for an extremely cheap 120 baht a night. Two completely different worlds. These new middle-class hotels are the absolute proof of the Thai entrepreneurial spirit of that time. For example, there was the Miami Hotel, which opened in 1965, and even by its name was aimed directly at Americans, or the Raja Hotel in 1966, and then, of course, the legendary Malaysia Hotel from 1967. By the way, a little fun fact, it was named after the family name of the Chinese owners, Ma, not after the country of Malaysia. Its 24-hour restaurant, Malai, became the pulsating heart of the R&R culture for the soldiers. These places were the stage on which the real, tangible transformation of Bangkok played out. Let's move on to our third point. Patpong and social dynamics. The soldiers obviously didn't just hang around in their hotels all the time. Logical, right? So we have to look exactly where the epicenter of entertainment was, and that was Patpong. If we go back to the year 1946, the Patpong Panich family bought a really unspectacular piece of land there. There was just a small canal and a single teakwood house. Nothing special. But then, in 1968, the transformation began. A few nightclubs opened and attracted American officers looking for something exclusive. And bam! By the 1970s, this neighborhood, literally a private family street, had mutated into a world-famous entertainment center. But this wasn't a simple story of everyone partying together. This was highly complex. If you compare Patpong with Nana Plaza, which emerged later, you see deep social divides. Patpong was polished, expensive, exclusive to officers. Nana Plaza, on the other hand, was rougher, more accessible, and more for the regular soldiers. What's really important to understand here, this scene perfectly reflected the tensions of American society. The racial segregation of the U.S. Civil Rights era was basically imported directly, but at the same time, we saw an enormous economic redistribution here. Thai entrepreneurs cleverly used these new dynamics to build livelihoods for themselves. And all this is brilliantly illustrated by someone who was there live, Bernard Trink. He understood a central truth. These bars and clubs were not a mere sideshow. They were the actual melting pot. Here, cultures collided, and here, stories were written.
Section 4. Two Culinary Worlds. Let's be honest. What would Bangkok be without its food? Alongside the hotels and bars, it was the culinary scene that massively shaped the city's character during this time. And here, too, Bangkok simply embraced both extremes simultaneously. On the one hand, absolute fine dining at the Mandarin Oriental, aspirational, exclusive. On the other hand, the real pulsating soul of Bangkok, street food. That was thoroughly democratic. The food stalls fed absolutely everyone, the local worker just as much as the freshly landed soldier. The brilliant thing is, Bangkok's culinary excellence wasn't reinvented in the 60s. It was simply catapulted onto the world stage by this boom. Places like K Panich or Somsak Puab served fantastic traditional dishes. And, of course, J Phai, who even scoops up Michelin stars today with her masterful omelets. These street chefs literally kept the city running during all this incredible chaos.
And that brings us to the last big topic, Bangkok's lasting legacy. Let's pull this all together. The 50,000 soldiers are long gone. The 60s are history. But the echo of that time? You can feel that on every corner in Bangkok. If you stand in one of those incredible rooftop bars today, like Sirocco or the Moon Bar, and look down at the sea of lights, then you are experiencing direct historical legacy. These lofty, exclusive places are basically the spiritual successors to the officers' clubs of back then. The Mandarin Oriental still sits majestically on the river, and Patpong is a thriving night market. This entire physical and cultural infrastructure that was stamped out of the ground back then is today the absolute foundation of this modern metropolis. Which leads to a really provocative question that I want to leave you with at the end. How much of modern Bangkok was actually born back then, in the neon light of the 1960s? Isn't it crazy that the identity of one of the most exciting cities in the world was forged exactly in this one decade? Exactly when foreign money met Thai entrepreneurial spirit. Be sure to keep that in mind next time you are in Bangkok or see pictures of it. Thanks for joining our analysis. Let's stay curious and look behind the scenes of history.